Papa's lost in the woods. Just
yeah. Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's we are the Cruxmen. I, as you know, Salt. We got Papa on the other end. Technically, yes, we are episode 18. Had some issues on the last one, so now we got that regroup. You know, it's amazing what a little lack of bandwidth can do on a video chat. Because like the last time we tried to do this, I thought I was being heard. I knew I couldn't be seen. I wasn't seen, but I thought I was being heard. And apparently that didn't happen. So we scrapped that one to an extent.
That happens to you more often than you think. Is anyone listening to me?
Hey, I'll just walk out. That makes it too easy for me. I'll just leave. I don't need it.
We spent an hour recording some total off the cuff, just random conversation, and it was so good. It was so good, and it was so genuine. And at the very end, we came to this harsh, just traumatizing realization that Salt was not recording at all. So it's just me talking to this, yeah. This person who isn't there. So that's yeah. So we live and we learn. But we got two recording dots there. I see them.
Yeah,
on the monitor. So we're solid.
Now we know for the future.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do to start this out. I'm going to pour myself a drink, because my body is just in another world of sore right now. And it's like the best, we keep talking about this stuff and I'm sure people are going to get tired of hearing us talk about, working out and all that kind of stuff. But like, this is part of what we do. It's part of what we do. And of course, as I tend to do, I like to make things a little bit weird. So I'm just going to tell you right now, my cheeks hurt. I mean, just like sitting down to do anything, So I told you I started including deadlifts into my leg day.
That'll do it.
And leg day was 2 days ago. So, 48 hours later, it's typically the worst. And I'm going to tell you what, I must have done something right because I'm sore, but like in a really like a good kind of sore. Like it's a deep burn. So
yeah. Yeah, I'm today was chest day for me. Failed to go to the gym, so I just did 500 push-ups instead. Now they're not done. I still got 50 left, but that's what I'm doing for today. Yeah, man. Right today, begins now. Granted, it's MotoGP weekend.
Woo!
Kampai. It's MotoGP weekend. They're at Mugello, and I'm trying to tell you, like that racetrack is absolutely amazing. Back in 2019, I went there, visited Florence, Italy, for this particular race that's happening this weekend in Italy, and the commentators kept referring back to that race in 2019, and entire time this morning watching like the practice, I'm like just giddy because every time they kept mentioning it, I was like, that was like, because it's like one of the best races that ever. You know, what I'm saying? One of the closest races ever. Yeah, I was there for that one. It was just like, I mean, the atmosphere in that place was just live. I'd never seen nothing like that in my life. You know what I'm saying? Like all these guys are just making noise, like there's noisemakers everywhere, and guys with their shirts off and chicks with their tops off, and like it was just madness everywhere you went. It was
I don't condone.
Absolutely not. It's disgusting on that flesh. But you know what? I did what I had to do because I'm a fan of the sport.
A true fan. Just this is so degrading right now. So degrading. But I also support the feminist movement. So let them hang free, ladies. Let them hang free. And that's my best. That's my best Trump impression.
I mean, how else are you going to get sun on them so they can get a complete tan?
Listen. The gods have shined on you today. Let them hang freely.
Definitely.
that's like Trump if he was stoned. I think it's
Shit, can you imagine? That'd be actually pretty fun to watch.
his eyes
Dude.
actually just wouldn't open at all.
Oh man, so yeah, no, it's gonna be a great weekend. I got to go to a wedding tomorrow, and that'll be another one that I have to do.
A
Not
wedding.
have to do, but I'm going. Yeah, I'm going as a +1. So luckily, I'm not a part
Ah.
of it. I'm just going. Yeah. Well, actually, it's a new it's a new one for me though, because I've been to like all kinds of weddings. This is the first
Mhm.
lesbian wedding I've ever been to, so it'll be different. Well, I mean,
I've
I'm assuming it's
actually
gonna be different, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm assuming it's gonna be more of the same, but it'd be the first of that type wedding that I've ever been to. So,
so let me throw this out there real quick since you bring it up and I'm feeling like a dick. Um
uh,
I, I've been to a couple lesbian well,
okay.
you know, I've been to a couple lesbian weddings
Mm-hmm.
and turns out I think that they have, a similar success rate lesbian weddings. I don't know about gay dudes. I've never been to a gay wedding, but I've been to a lesbian wedding. I
Mm-hmm.
guess there's a difference, but
Well, one's
anyway, I
females,
think
one's
they have a
males.
similar. They must have a similar success rate as just regular folks, because both the weddings that I went to,
Mm-hmm.
neither of them worked out.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh.
and one of them ran off to get some dick,
Mm. Mm.
and another one did a dirty move, like what you hear about the stereotypical dude, left for a younger woman.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, let's just be clear. I think in terms of like success rate or whatever, you get when it comes to let's just say the commitment of marriage, those vows,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's same sex, opposite sex, whatever, people are just everybody is susceptible to that. Like, people are gonna be people, they're gonna still do people things. So if what kind of blows my mind, because like I'll talk to some of my homegirls, and one of their reasons for kind of like saying, I don't really mess with guys anymore is because they said that guys cheat. Only to find out that women cheat as well. And they're just like, oh my gosh. So like, well, you can't think that like you're immune to that going with the other gender just because she's a girl, she's gonna understand you more. Like, no, everybody has urges, whatnot. They're gonna do what they gotta do. So I don't know. Success rate, I
Well,
think it's the same. I would think that like if I went through all the trouble, I guess you could say, like, it's not it hasn't been easy for that community to even get in that position. So if we're gonna do it, let's do it and let's make it work. But at the end, once again, people are people.
so
So
let
I
me
don't
yeah,
think
so
the sex
let me
rights rate's gonna
submit
be any better or
this.
less.
Let me submit this, right? Because again, I'm
Mm-hmm.
feeling like a dick, and and I like to just call it like it is. Uh, if we're using this person, whoever this is that you said, like, oh, I'm leaving men because they all cheat. I'm going to be a lesbian,
Mm-hmm.
and then you turn lesbian and they cheat too.
Mm-hmm. Where do you go now?
Well, no, maybe it's you. Maybe it's you.
Yeah. I mean, I
Maybe
always say that. Yeah, I
I mean,
agree.
right? Like it maybe, and not necessarily that you, whoever this person is a bad person,
Yeah,
but
no.
maybe the people that you allow into your life are not the
They're not the
level of
one.
character or whatever that you probably are looking for, but maybe you have a fear of being alone or whatever else it is, like you can't manage to, just be single. And we know, how many people do we know like that, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
it's like, look, man, like if you're going to let folks into your life just because having a shady person there you think is better than having no one at all, and then
Mm-hmm.
that shady person cheats on you, you kind of have no one to blame but yourself.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. You
Maybe
just
I'm
really can't
being a little
tell.
too honest. I
No,
don't
I
know.
think there's really no way to know. And for me, this just I think
What do
it
you
does,
mean?
even if it's like a
Back
yeah,
it up. Roll it back.
yeah, yeah.
What do you mean there's no way to know?
There's no way to know in terms of right, like everything's peaches and cream in the beginning, right? Everyone's in that honeymoon phase. Oh my god, like I love you, you love me, blah 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 blah, right? especially like let's just say even if the relationship was even on the rocks, right? Say you've been together for like a year or whatever, the relationship's on the rocks, but
I've
now
had
all of a
some
sudden,
very different experiences.
no, no,
Because
no,
it's
no. So I'm just saying, like you know, and say let's say that was the case, but the guy like, oh my god, like you know what? But I love you, girl. Blah 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 blah. And he pulls out this ring and he proposes. She's like, oh my god, yes, yes, I'll do that. Yes. She loses her mind. Right now, everybody's on cloud nine yet again. We kind of
you're
forgot about
talking
yesterday.
you're
Uh-huh.
talking about more like established relationships that then take it to another level.
Yes,
I thought
yes,
you were
not
talking
just
about
like
like
jumping
out the
in with.
get. Oh,
Oh
okay.
yeah, not some like you know what do they call it, love
I'm
at first sight type crap. No, I'm
no,
talking
I've
about
had.
you.
I'm
You've
just
been
saying
in
I've
it.
had some nightmare first experiences that I was
Mm.
like, but I'm single, and so I'm gonna dabble with the devil's nectar. I'm gonna play this game. I'm gonna roll the dice one more time. And it
Yeah, I mean,
turns
but the
out
thing is,
shouldn't have done it.
let me like for
Hmm.
me, if I do that, knowing that I'm going into that, I also don't intend to stay with that person. So I don't.
Yeah,
For me, like I keep that. I would keep her at a distance. If I know it's like she's kind of crazy, but it's not like I'm gonna stay. You know what I'm saying? Like, and she knows that, and it's just like this isn't gonna work because you're nuts, and I'm not gonna tolerate that, and I'm crazy on my way, and this is like a recipe for disaster. So let's just have a good time in a place where we can both coexist without killing each other. Then it's like established. But like if that's the rules of engagement out the gate, then I think it's doable because the expectations are already set. But if you're, I think so. I think where I was saying before is that people are people, and like no matter the situation, folks become vulnerable because I think people get too comfortable. I think when people get comfortable, that's where you can now possibly you kind of almost like you leave like it's like a chink in the armor. You know what I'm
hmm
saying? When people aren't doing what they're supposed to do to kind of make the other person their significant other a little more resilient. You know what I'm saying? A little more resistant to the temptations of this world. You know what I'm saying? So
I feel you.
anybody could fall susceptible. Let's just be clear. I mean, and I'm not sitting there saying that it's right to step out. I'm not saying nothing like that. However, I think it's kind of jacked up that you're holding whomever to a standard of perfection when nobody on this planet is perfect. Especially if you are the cause for this person for now to become weak, and now they're whatever devil comes into play is like
Hmm.
rearing its ugly head, and they're just like, oh, I can't fight it. and not to say that you have to smash, but because thing is, some people say like, you know what, even if you're thinking about somebody else, you're cheating. And I was like, well, that's jacked up. You know what I'm saying? Because I've watched a lot of movies. I'm like, whoa, it's a very attractive individual. But it doesn't mean like I've like done anything. You know what I'm saying? So I mean,
Look,
I don't know. Some
look.
people it's like you have any kind of feelings toward like another person that you're dead wrong. I'm like you've never, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't know. It's that holier than thou thing that I'm just not into. So I should be able to
Well,
say that a
you
woman
know,
is attractive without you losing your mind.
call me
You know?
gay. Call me gay. I've definitely seen a movie and thought it's a good looking dude, man.
I mean, yeah,
Now I'm not like, I wonder what his dick tastes like, but
yeah.
I've definitely looked at some dudes
I've never.
and been like, that's a good looking fucking dude, you know?
I, but why can't
Like,
and
but
like
that
why
that
can't
that's
you
not
appreciate that?
that ain't cheating. That ain't
No.
cheating. I'm not like, oh man, I'm gonna run off with him if he comes through the door. And it's the
Yeah.
same thing if I see an attractive woman. I can appreciate someone's attractiveness
Mm-hmm.
from a distance. And it now, like if I'm like having fantasies and stalking them on social media and, like imagining, my wife is her type of thing, like depending on your boundaries, which we've talked
Mm-hmm.
about before. I can't remember if that was 17.5 or 17, but we certainly talked about boundaries at some point recently.
Yeah.
Uh, depending on the boundaries of your relationship, maybe that's okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I don't. Yeah. It's tough, man. It's a tough one. I was gonna say something about that and I completely lost it. But it kind of reminds me. So I just finished this show actually on Netflix called Obsession.
mhm,
Pretty interesting show. Now I don't want to give too much away for those who might watch it, but basically the premise is this: there's this. They're the one of the main characters is a like I'm talking top notch surgeon. Like he I guess he successfully completed this procedure where he uh there was like I guess some Siamese twins separated the
mhm,
two, And they're like, oh my God, sang his praises, all that, threw a big party for him. I think he was like, basically pretty much coming to the end of his career, whatnot. He meets this attractive woman and he's like, oh, like spellbound. I'm talking like locked in, like, holy smokes, right? Losing his mind. He's just like, damn. They had like this really, really, like, I'm talking like this passionate moment. And the thing is, I'm watching, it's like, I've been there before. Great. I mean, talking like, you know what I'm saying? So she leaves. And come to find out, this is the girlfriend of his son. And he didn't know. You know what I'm saying? So this individual, the girl, she seduces like the father. Now, granted, she already knows the father is just like I'm talking, she's got him on lock. And so they begin to start this relationship, and then like the son has no idea that the father is basically blowing his girlfriend's back out when he's not around. You know what I'm saying? They're texting back and forth, all this good stuff. And
he still doesn't know it's his son's girlfriend.
No, he does at this point because he brought her to. He's like, hey, like, this is my girl. He's like, oh snap! So he knows that's his son's girl, and he's
dirty,
wearing this lady out, unbeknownst to his son. And then it just turns into this big mess. I'm gonna leave it for that, but like, yo, like that show, I was like, wow, it was like 4 episodes, like a limited series. It's on Netflix. It's pretty good. I just couldn't stop watching. I was like, yo, like this is crazy. I was like, I don't know, man. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
Let me bring it back real quick because, well, I mean, I could foresee myself going down a rabbit hole on this one here.
Yeah, might as well.
Okay, let's dive in. Like, I mean, it's one thing to go somewhere. Like, I mean, I guess we're just gonna be raw in this episode. So it's one thing to go somewhere like where you maybe your friend's already been there.
Mm-hmm.
And to be clear, I'm talking about having sex with a woman that your friends had sex with. Okay. Just so, right. I'm not being too cryptic here. Right. So okay. Let's just say she's good looking chick, likes to have a good time. She's kind of always hanging around the crew to the point that that your crew, some of them, let's say half of them have already been there. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's tough for me, man, because it's like, for like a night, what, man, it just there's too many things that can be told from that, right? Like, I'm gonna go into it, thinking like, yo, I'm gonna wear you out. But if she's like yawning halfway through, she's like, yo, Salt knows what he's doing, and clearly you need some help. Because at this point, you have to imagine this lady is probably honest, like brutally hurt your feelings, honest. You know what I mean? Like, so if I don't come out of that and she's not at least lying to my face saying you're the best D I've ever had, your friends are all a bunch of vaginas and should go gay because they don't know how to please women, you should write a book. Like, if this is not the compliments that I'm getting, it ain't worth it. It ain't worth it. It ain't worth it.
But you wouldn't know until the deed was done. After you put in all that work and effort, only for her to be like, and you're dismissed.
Yeah. Yeah. So here comes me walking in with confidence, and she's like,
I'm gonna show you something, lady. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a difference though, right? It kind of depends.
I think that's when you gotta step on their throat and stuff. You're like, I'm gonna show you some shit you ain't never seen before. I
might take that. And I might take that. I mean,
you see, I wanted to go back to PG, healthy relationships, and now here we're throat stomping ladies to set yourself apart from your friends who have already been there.
Hey, the thing is, if that's what was requested, who are you to deny? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's kind of out of your hands. It might just be like a thing. Everybody has their thing. And women are no different. So,
true.
You have to, you got to pony up. So yeah,
in terms of like where it is healthy before I get myself in trouble. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I think when it comes to that's what I was saying before, if you are in a relationship, even if it's established, don't think that like you can just ease off the throttle across the board. Like you got to keep yourself in check. You know what I mean? You got, and the thing is, you have to keep yourself. You got to keep your partner still wanting on some level. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like they should, you should still be attractive to your significant other. You know what I'm saying? You still maintain all these different things because, like I said, like I know people can find any reason to be like, this isn't what I thought it was gonna be or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, who knows? Like, life is just so random, and it's hard to like, and the thing is like, and this is what I'm saying, like right now, which is jacked up, right? You have to continue to do new tricks or whatever to keep the other person enticed. You know what I'm saying? And like that's which I think is ridiculous. Like you shouldn't have to do that, but then like sometimes it might take that from time. Like that's why people are like, we don't do anything new. How come we don't do anything new? It's not special anymore. Blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? Like people get bored with the same old
Yep.
people sometimes. You got to,
But
I
I
mean,
also
depending on your
think,
person, depending on who you're with, you should know what they're about. But
yeah.
like in terms of keeping it spicy, whatnot, like, I mean, if you're going to be in it forever to the day that you're dead, there's not going to be much left to be spicy. It's not going to be, that you can liven it up with.
So I,
Yeah,
I disagree. I
Oh,
disagree,
okay.
and here's why. Here's why I
Mm-hmm.
disagree with that. For people who I think probably didn't belong together in the first part, and therefore they have to find ways to spice up their relationship,
Mm-hmm.
you can go about that one of two ways, right? Because I would be the first to say right now, like me and my wife, probably not, two people, like everyone, like it's weird, right? External people look at us and they're like, oh man, like two well-established individuals, they have similar, goals. They're both maintain their fitness, they're educated and they work hard and they love their kids and da 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 da. But my wife and I are oil and water, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll say, going about it one of two ways. We find ways to keep things spicy, but it's just by catering to the other person, to the other person's needs type of thing, like making sure that we have that date night once a month, where we can
Mm-hmm.
go out and just be us. Because honestly, spicing up our relationship is removing all external factors.
Mm-hmm.
Take the kids out of it.
No stressors.
No, we don't bring in-laws. We don't bring friends. It's just her and I, and
Mm-hmm.
we actually get to have conversations without getting interrupted every 3 seconds by, little people. There's not someone's friends always trying to just do shots back to back to back. I don't know who that is, but could be a scenario, or there's the people who like doing what you say. They're like, oh my God, everything's just the same. And those people, I think they forgot why they fell in love with that person in the first place. Not to get too mushy about it, but truly, right? I mean, like if you can't appreciate the little things, the constant things, right? That consistency in that human being that you're with, you can be oil and water. But if there's things about that person that they do and they do it consistently and it's things that you really admire or that you love about them, or cherish, whatever it is, like that's what you need to hang, build your relationship around, right? Don't build it around like what are you going to buy for me next? When are we going on this next elaborate trip, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll finish my point with this. I heard there's this psychologist talking the other day, and I don't know if I sent it to you or not, but she goes, this whole relationships are 50-50 is bullshit. I was like, I'm listening, right?
She's
Okay.
right.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I think you're right, but I don't I want to say you're right, but I don't know where you're going with this, right? So
Absolutely.
cuz her 50-50 comment could go 50-50, right? So she said the 50-50 thing is bullshit because not everybody can be 50% of the relationship all the time, which means that you're 100% of yourself in the relationship all the time as one half of that relationship, because that's how math works, right? So, she said her and her husband have this deal where, when they get home from work or whatever, they'll tell each other like, hey, I'm at 20%. I got like 20% of fucks to give right now. And so it will be on the other person, assuming they have that, if they have it, to go, if they come home, they're like, oh man, I got 100. I will cover your other 80. Not even a problem. I got the kids, the dishes, the laundry, the dogs, whatever it is needs to get done. You be present without losing your mind, and I will take care of all the BS, right? So, and I liked that. And then she followed it with this. She goes, however, that's not always the reality. Sometimes you both come home and you're like, I got 10%. And your spouse is like, I got 10%. So they then go and sit down just for like a few minutes, have a quick strategy session on how can we get through the night, like essentially divide and conquer, I would think. Like, you do this, I'll do this. We're not going to let this, and this affect us. That way they don't take out their stress or their exhaustion or whatever on each other. Right.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just the kind of the coolest way of thinking, about that. So,
I mean, no, I mean, I think that's how it should be. The whole point is that, if you're a team, you become each other's crutch, because I'm not going to necessarily be on all day long. It's kind of just knowing where the person's at, and I think that, the more you kind of do for each other, then of course it's going to swing, but at least, I don't know, if you kind of just know, like, okay, you know what, he's been cooking the last whatever few days, like this time I'll cook since I'm home early or whatever. I think stuff like that, just kind of going out of your way for that person when you do have the energy, not waiting for them to come home already jacked up. Say, hey, I've already done all that stuff. Cool. Like, I already know you're gonna come home late. I beat you here. I got ahead of it. Oh my god! Like, thank you so much. Whatever. Like, granted, it's not gonna always be that. You might be like, I ain't doing nothing. I'm gonna wait till she gets home, and I'm gonna stare at this stuff. And I'm trying to sit there and
do it.
Watch an episode or whatever you're gonna do. And she comes home, and then it's just like, okay, well, hopefully she hasn't beat on me because I didn't do jack the whole time the whole time I've been here. But and then that'll be what it's going to be as well. But I mean, yeah, I agree. It's not 50-50 because it comes and it goes in terms of people's energy levels and how their days went and the type of person that some people are.
I mean, really, it comes down to just how you move through life, right? So there's another quote that I saw today because this is kind of what this is kind of like the direction my mind was flowing today. I was having a good day. I was feeling very energized. I ate a bunch of berries and I was feeling very energetic today. Had just a phenomenal workout this morning. My kids were all, behaving and being, amenable and anyway, so, as opposed to 2 days ago, which I'll dive into that here in a second, but I was about to. There's going to be one less human in my house, I think. Oh my god. Yeah, my oldest. She pushed my buttons the wrong way. What's today? I think it was yesterday, actually. So I'll get to that in a minute. The other quote that I saw, though, back on the husband wife thing or whatever spouse thing, good segue, was that the happy wife, happy life thing.
Yeah.
Needs to come to an end, right?
Well,
it should be happy spouse, happy house. And it sounds nerdy, but it's true, right? There's two adults here, and the age old, like, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. It's very accurate. But if the women out there don't understand that what a typical, I will say, like a traditional husband who actually gives a shit, the mental torture I put myself through to maintain the household when my wife is not happy is truly torture. I would rather go play cards in hell with the devil, right? Like, just, you know what? I think this would be a less painful environment. At least I'm doing something I enjoy doing, even though I'm on fire. You know what I mean? Like, it's less painful than dealing with a very distraught, upset, or pissed off, whatever term you want to use, wife. So recognizing what your significant other does in those situations and then making it up to them, regardless of what that is in your particular relationship, making it up to that person, being like, hey, I really appreciate you maintaining and taking that 99% when I was losing my mind and letting me go have a breather, that happy spouse, happy house. I like that. I like that. I even sent it to my wife. She didn't reply.
She's like, we're sticking to the old rule.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't believe in kissing somebody's behind just to keep peace in the house. One individual, you know what I mean? Like, once again, I look at it as it's a team thing. I didn't marry myself. I didn't just marry one person. You know, we married each other, so we should be holding each other down. Period. Dot. So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna do what I can for you, but you should also be putting out. You should be matching my effort. Let's just be clear, right? And I
Right.
think that's like I said. Like, if that's what I was saying before, is that when you feel like you're being taken it, like, I mean, even in a marriage, you can be taken advantage of, right? Someone's just,
Oh yeah.
not doing, they're not lifting, they're not carrying their load. You know what I'm saying? They're not carrying their weight. So, if you feel like you're being, taken advantage of, that's what makes people vulnerable to other things. And the thing is, everybody wants to go to cheating with women, whatever. It could be anything, anything. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Sure.
you get lost in whatever your passion is, and one way or another, you're not spending time with that other person. Period. Dot. Like, that's what it is. 100%. People start boozing it up. People, they'll do anything but deal with that person, and the relationship's doomed anyway. So,
Well,
that's why I've asked this to women. So I was like, you know what? Would you rather, not to say that it's right, but like, would you rather have the guy with the gambling problem, or the guy who steps out from time to time? Like, both suck, but everybody wants to say that the end all be all is like you go sleep with another female, or you sleep with somebody else, right? And that's like, oh my god, that's like the big one, right? But I'm like, if the dude's like, say like a junkie, he gets caught up in a habit, that you tell me that's better, but you're gonna stay for that? You're gonna stay for the gambler?
right.
You're gonna stay for all this other stuff? But that, like, it's an automatic, absolutely not, just because he dipped his dipstick in some other fluids. Like, come on, man. Like, to me, I
Yeah.
mean, granted, like, I get it, but how many times does somebody have to gamble away your mortgage before you kind of wisen up?
Well, that's just it. Yeah, like the go-to cliche statement is, "Yeah, but he broke my trust. How can I ever trust him again?" I'm like,
Yeah.
he just lost your fucking mortgage payment
Exactly.
on a hand of blackjack.
Yeah. And now,
Right?
not only you, but also the babies. Now, like, we're all in a tight situation, as opposed to,
Everyone's
like,
suffering,
yeah,
and the thing is that particular addiction is not going away that easily, right?
No, not at all.
Versus outside of, yes, he broke your trust when he stepped out on you for a night, but then he came back home. No money was lost. Like, I mean,
He probably just feels
now
better.
he might
Maybe,
because especially if he's not getting at home. Now, I mean, there's dry spells in every relationship, fellas. I'm out here to tell you,
no doubt.
wife is not always going to be able and willing. You know what I mean? You just got to kind of ride out that tidal wave a little bit, and things will come back. But that's that balance, man. So I heard this other thing too, slightly segueing into a little bit different topic, and really, because again, this is just where my head has been all day, and obviously social media listens to my brainwaves and knows exactly what to present to me. So this guy was asked, this guy asked the hardest working person he works with. It just always seemed like super into what he was doing, just constantly. He's like, the guy shows up early, he works late, puts in lots of hours. He's very successful at what he does. Clearly he's passionate about what he does, because otherwise, why would he put in that much time? And so he finally built up the courage, and he goes, "Hey, man, like, how is it that you're so passionate about? What is it about what you do that makes you so passionate?" He goes, "It's not what I do that I'm passionate about." He goes, "But I know I work long hours because I want to be successful." He goes, "I work so hard during those long hours because I don't want the people I'm going home to feel like my time away was wasted." He goes, "So my passion is those people." And I was like, shit, right? So it's that mentality of like, okay, like when you come home, and honestly, and I'm jumping back and forth a little bit, but if you come home feeling like you succeeded that day, like you fulfilled that whole of being accomplished, So you come home feeling accomplished. I think you're already coming home with extra to give. You might be mentally tired, depending on your job, you may be physically tired, but your heart is full of love, and you're going to overcome that exhaustion because you want to be there for those people you care about.
Mm-hmm.
So really, if everything you do in life is for the people you love, you can't do anything wrong. And with that, if your main focus is taking care of those folks and always letting them know how you feel about them and making them number one, it's going to make it that much easier to not get tempted, right? Because I have my whole, karmic way of thinking of, if I step out on my wife leaving me is the least of my concerns. Karma would pay that back to me by having that same shit happen to my kids. And I've got 2 little girls. Like, I don't want them to go through, that could be a total bullshit way of thinking, but it helps me in certain scenarios to be like,
It keeps
not
you in
worth it.
check.
Yeah. Like, I would never want my little girl to come home crying. And I say little girl, when she's 17, 18, 25, 37, come home in tears, because the man she was with stepped out and disrespected her that way and broke her trust, or whatever, right? Let's
Yeah.
assume that all the other, horrible things that people could go through are not an option right now, because the first thing that's going to go through my mind if that happens is, I did this. This is my fault because I wasn't faithful to your mom. Now the guys you're with aren't being faithful to you, you know?
Hmm.
So, and you could say that's a selfish thought, but you know what? Whatever keeps my conscience clean and keeps me on the straight and narrow, it's as good of a reason as any, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, whatever it takes, even if that's what it takes for a person to go to their job every day with like you know, a fairly pleasant demeanor. If it, like I'm here because I got a family I need to take care of. Da 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 da. I endure this job just because I need to do these things for my family, whatever. Hey, once again, I think that it all comes down to like your why. Why are you even doing anything in this world, right? And if you have like a solid reason as to what your purpose is, it makes it worth it. Because if you kind of go in there like, I'm just existing, then it's easy to be like, this isn't working. But if you go in there with like a purpose and you say like, okay, this is why I'm doing this, then you can definitely tolerate a lot more. You can endure a lot more with that, going in with that. Like a lot of folks, like if you don't have a job, you'll take any job, and once you have, you're like, oh, thank God. So now I can like put food on the table. Just the basics, right? It's not until people start getting comfortable, like, like I'm better than this. That's when like the job becomes like a problem. Like I could do other things, like like, or they expect a higher paying position or whatever, and they're kind of getting away from the fact that like I could get more. Like I want to have like the basics aren't good enough anymore. Now it's like I want to have like the nice car. I want to have this. I want to have that. I need more money, and now this job's just not good enough because it's not paying me enough. Because like you think about it, when you're like a kid, and you're a teenager, any job will do. That first check is like balling, baby. Like I'll take that to the bank, And then over time, you start making more money, make more money. Going back to that isn't going to cut it. Now, if this whole economy just takes a dump, I bet you McDonald's is going to be like, hey, I guess we got something for you if you want to work here. And people are like, hey, hey, that's fine. I got a doctorate. How about that? You want to please hire me. You'll take anything if it comes to survival mode at that point. So yeah, I mean, like I said, the why piece, right? Just kind of keeping yourself in check as to like, okay, what is my, and then, ask anybody, ask a lot of folks out there, like, what the hell they're even about? Like, what do they do? What are they into? And they're probably like, I don't know. So who are you? People can't even answer that question. They have a hard time doing it. And I'm sure, and I say that because I know that was definitely me for like a very long time. I was like, I don't know what the hell I even like. I had to like figure that out about a good 7-8 years ago or so. Because I was like, I don't know. My identity was tied up in a couple, like in a relationship, and I had no identity as an individual anymore.
There's that other piece of that too. It's like there's what you like and what you're passionate about, and then there's what can you do that will actually pay you.
Mm-hmm.
It
And that should just
ain't easy, man. It
fund
takes
the
time.
passion. But you gotta do what you gotta do. At first, you gotta survive and make that happen first. And then whatever disposable income you got, put that towards the passion. And then hopefully,
Yeah.
eventually, hopefully, the goal is that what you love to do every day is just how you're living, But
Yeah.
yeah, man, it's
There's this
interesting.
funny, there's this dude who's talking about YouTubers and podcasters and stuff like that. And again, I don't know if I sent it to you or not, but essentially he was like, he goes, just post. He goes, this is like what you're really trying to do, and you have like, whether it's good content, funny content, you just have, magnetic, personality type of thing. He goes, that's all good and great. He goes, but I could almost guarantee you, your first 100 posts aren't going to amount to anything. He goes, I'd be willing to bet your first post will never get a single view, not one. And so it made me go back and look at our first post, and we have a view or two.
Oh, yeah,
I
it's
don't know how many it
probably
was,
you.
but it was.
It's probably one of us. Oh shit, we
I
actually
am
did it.
I am our biggest fan. Let's be honest. I am our biggest fan. But either way, like I started thinking, I was like, man, we're going into episode 18. Now, granted, it's a podcast, and yes, we get pretty lengthy at times, but like I think we talked about this the other night. Could you imagine 20 years from now, if we're still doing this, 20 years, and if we do whatever 50 episodes a year, was that 1,000 episodes?
Yeah, you'd be syndicated.
That's got to have some traction at some point.
I don't think so.
Even if it is just a living diary of us for our kids and our grandkids and whatever else. You know what? It's.
I mean,
one day they're going to listen to episode 18 and they're going to be like, "Oh man, Grandpapa Joe, he was really had some good things to say, about staying loyal to the family and working hard and like just, the basics, that get you through life."
Yeah, and stepping on a girl's face while he's digging around.
See, I knew that was going to come back to haunt me.
Man, Grandpa Joe was
already.
Great. That's what you did back
Grandpa
then.
Joe, Grandpa Joe. Yeah, we're all gathered around the fucking Christmas tree
Yeah.
in 2065.
What does this mean?
They're like,
hold your
Grandpa Joe, yeah. Why did you step on Grandma's neck? Yeah. We don't understand.
They're gonna put on the big screen, if there's even screens. It's gonna be some hologram, talking.
It's just a couple floating heads.
Yeah, exactly. Some holograms like demonstrating exactly what you're talking about. It's like, oh man, this is not. I didn't know technology was gonna get like this.
So how do you feel about like the way our world is going right now with technological advancements and stuff like that?
I think it's awesome.
They got robots out there doing some crazy stuff right now.
We're gonna, I think it's awesome. I think it's great. It's also scary, and it's not because I'm worried about robots taking over. I think it's just because people are people, and people are just as evil as they are good. And I think that the tech is going to be outstanding. I think it's, like I said, I think it's mind blowing what is coming. And there's stuff that I don't even know that's coming. And I'm gonna be like, holy smokes, like this is where we are already. But then, like I said, on the flip side of that, if we have the capability to do some of this stuff, how can that be now weaponized to like destroy people, perhaps? And that's like the scary side of it in my mind. But I try not to dwell there because I know that that's gonna be what's gonna be. But I think it's legit. You figure if these robots really take off, we are truly getting to that. I think that utopian kind of society. I think even now, like with the markers doing what they're doing, all that, there's got to be something that's gonna, something's coming. I think the big brains out there got something cooking because I don't know what's going on right now. But
so here's a rabbit hole I've been going down to, and you know how I feel about like conspiracy theories and stuff like that. I think that they're theories that may or may not be conspiracy, right?
Mm-hmm.
They just haven't necessarily been proven yet, but there's been some pretty wild stuff out there. And I'll start with this, and this is not a conspiracy nor a theory. This is just an interview that they actually had with AI. So they had this robot with artificial intelligence, and they asked this robot a question like, you know, you know, what is a robot's uh, biggest threat to mankind? And like this robot sat there and it had like a face and everything. And it was like kind of thinking the way that a human would think, eyes kind of moving and just kind of, let me look in my brain real quick. And it comes back and it goes, robots' greatest, like AI, artificial intelligence, their greatest threat to humankind will be our ability to become so intelligent and so informed that we can manipulate humans without them knowing. So essentially, we become the pawns, and they're just kind of dictating how we move, and we don't even realize they're dictating our moves. And I almost think it's already happening, meaning like just through technology, not through AI and robotics necessarily, but just technology as a whole is weakening and corrupting people's minds. When you've got people, I mean, look, everybody who watches this is probably watching it on a cell phone or an iPad or a tablet or whatever, something like that, right? So you're already watching technology. And I'm not saying watching this is going to rot your brain, watching us. I'm just saying because there's a lot of education out there, which is great because it's right there at your fingertips.
Nobody uses it for that.
But you can look on whatever device you're looking at, and you can see under settings or whatever how much screen time you've had in the last 24 hours, in the last week or whatever it is. So we are spending that much time staring at screens wrapped up in other people's imagination, not imagination, but like imaginary lives, TikTok, Instagram, all the social media stuff, and that is influencing people to either think that they are good enough or that they're not good enough. And some people who think they're not good enough either take it as a challenge to get better or they just go off the fucking deep end, and so it already has very negative side effects.
Absolutely. I mean, look at the algorithm. I never watched it. There's a show on Netflix. I can't remember the name of it, but it was talking about the technology's influence on society. The impact it's had thus far. And like a lot of people who worked for let's say like a Twitter or Facebook, whatever, like they quit because they saw what was happening to people and they didn't want to be a part of that anymore. Can't remember the name of it. It was pretty popular like a year or two ago, something like that. But like, you look at it like people's devices. Yeah, it's definitely having the negative side of it is that it creates like kind of like this tribalism, right? Like if you have one point of view, it'll just keep feeding that point of view. It isn't going to show you the whole picture. It's going to give you that one point of view. I do this politic. I only watch this stuff, and it's going to say, okay, well, that's all you're going to get. The other side, you're completely oblivious to it. And you're thinking these people are aliens. You know what I'm saying? In terms of like that point of view, like, and you can get stuck in your own little world. I think even, and I've been saying this for a while, when you, put any destination in your phone and you use your GPS, AI is, it's directing traffic. I mean, how are you to know that that's truly the fastest route? Because it told you so, you're relying on that. And you're like, that sounds about right. And it's taking you off the beaten path to whatever. You're like, okay, well, obviously it wouldn't take me this way if there wasn't traffic this way, right? But you don't really know. Yep. It's just basically alleviating some of that traffic by sending you this way, this other car that way. And then once that starts to get kind of congested, it'll find some other path or whatever. But I mean, we rely on technology heavily, like the point where we're borderline retarded if we don't have it. We don't know how to navigate on our own. We can't do anything without it. So yeah, if it was to go I think it would be very easy for AI to manipulate humans and us becoming the pawns, if not turning into batteries like the Matrix. Who knows? I think it'd be very easy to do so. I mean, shit, like, you get a drone that these things are getting really lifelike. You know what I'm saying? You get one of these drones out there, it'd be probably the next, like you were talking about before, it wouldn't be a clone, it'd be just like a drone that turns into the Antichrist. It wouldn't even be like a actual biological being. It would just be some mechanical drone that looks and feels like an actual human, and we wouldn't be the wiser.
And people follow it.
Yeah, and then you worry about you have to, and maybe that becomes like the standard, right? And to the point like we don't even know if that's like the real president or like not, or like his drone. Who knows? He doesn't have to worry about being assassinated anymore. He's got his backup.
So how far down the rabbit hole do you go on that? I mean, like, so I was looking at a thing, and I have it dialed up here to play it in a second, but just getting into the whole conspiracy theory chat, God, there's some wild stuff out there. I mean, just wild stuff. I mean, everything from political conspiracy theories, which have no end, and again, those I think are just theories because. So I've watched a couple things that make a lot of sense, like they point out, especially, and bringing everything full circle, using technology now to go back and look at like the JFK assassination, and they're pulling these files back out and reanalyzing these things and being like, we missed something. We missed something. Like, how could this dude have been shot, 3 times by one shooter, but he has 3 different points of entry from 3 different directions, type of thing. You know what I mean? Like, there was a shooter, and in the midst of the panic and chaos, even though that bullet may have hit, like his closest bodyguards was like, pump 1, pump 2, let's just make sure this job gets done, and no one's going to know because chaos, right? Everyone's screaming. They're not even going to hear the second gunshots. Assuming they didn't just use silencers, right? So, I mean, people aren't even going to see that shit. So, I mean, there's some crazy stuff. So, I'll play this real quick. Because this is just one of the more wild ones I've heard. I'll keep the video my way, but just let's see if you can hear this.
Theory that the Trumps are time travelers. That'd be DeLorean. This connects to Nikola Tesla. No way. Nikola Tesla died, and within his hotel that he had 80 plus trunks of all his patents, his designs for different technologies, all this stuff. Guess who they sent first to go and collect the stuff? I don't know. John G. Trump. Donald Trump's uncle. What? Weird. So the theory is that he took some of these trunks, but Tesla said that he had figured out how to bend time. So, as one does. The theory is Donald Trump's uncle took this, created a time machine. Oh my gosh. And then the weird connection is there was a book that came out in 1896, and it's called Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey. You're saying do you know what the book was about? What? Time travel? Baron Trump time traveling. Have you heard of the theory that
yeah.
And I looked at that a little bit further, and it was something like furthering that conspiracy theory. I believe one of Donald Trump's son's names is Baron Trump. Right? So the book correlated with all these things, right? And then his son's name is also Baron. Like, it was all this crazy stuff. They're like, oh yeah, the Trumps, they're time travelers. You know what I mean? Like, so, stuff like that. And like the Rothschild, conspiracy theories, and just like insane things out there that, it just makes you start thinking like, how much either I've completely lost my mind, or how much is out there being debated amongst people who don't know, but it might actually be happening, and they're just doing everything they can to fucking cover it up.
You know what?
I'm not saying time travel per se.
I've been down this road with the time travel. I don't. I won't completely blow off all possibilities. However, time travel for me, it's a bit of a stretch. Especially when you're talking about going to the past. Like for me, it's kind of like, that is the one I like. And I don't like to
They're
say impossible, but like I'll leave that in the impossible category. You know, now the future, that's still a stretch, but like technically, I guess you could say you could time travel if say they get the cryo chambers. They freeze you. You wake up. It's like, oh, it's now 100 years in the future. You kind of technically time travel because you've been preserved and you went to bed. You woke up and then you're someplace else. I don't know. But going backward, no, I don't see that ever happening unless you start bending time and space and all that. But then, like, why do I have to go through some black hole to go backwards? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. And why is it being saved there on some massive hard
not
drive?
not
I
well,
have
that's
no
what I
idea.
think
I don't know.
So the bending time thing, though, I would actually, if we're gonna have this conversation, which I'm not smart enough to have, but or at least I've not read up, I've not done enough, research on it. But this is the type of stuff that I would research. I would research this stuff for days, weeks, months, just because I find it fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Because at a minimum, it just kind of makes you think, right? Like whether or not you want to buy off on it or not, you're like, there's some really cool, I think, coincidences there. But if we were to, go down this particular rabbit hole, as I keep saying, I would say bending time might be a little bit less likely than finding a way to jump to the other, paralleling universes or whatever. Like, okay, in this universe, I can go and see what happened if JFK never got shot. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like that type of thing, and then you bounce back to this one and you're like, oh shit, like,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden something crazy in the world happens or changes, or like somebody's on the cusp of, going public with some crazy knowledge and then they end up dead.
Yeah.
Or they're like, oh, some other things are about to pop off and we really need a huge shift. Hey, China, go ahead and release that virus and let's create, an uproar, a distraction,
Mm-hmm.
but a worldwide distraction,
Get everybody
like
tucked in.
So this is where my conspiracy theories start to kick in, is because I'm like, just the way it came about.
Mm-hmm.
I won't even go with that. I'll just say this. I certainly think that there are supreme leaders, if you will, a supreme grouping of people in this world that have lots of backup contingency plans of people to off, things to create mayhem and chaos and confusion, to recage the simple folks and distract from where we were going. And if things ever get too comfortable, and I really do, I think prior to COVID, in 2019 hitting the States, I think in February of 2020 timeframe, I think life was kind of starting to get kind of like, okay, the economy was doing some weird stuff, whatever. It was okay, but it wasn't great. And we were bouncing around, but for the most part, I think we were okay. We were all pulling out of the U.S. was pulling out of the Middle East.
Yeah.
Russia had not invaded the Ukraine yet. There was no, huge, there was no COVID. Like, I'm just saying, like, and then all of a sudden there's all these things that happen. And it was like overload of like, come the fuck, like, seriously, another one.
But I think it was granted, conspiracy, all that good stuff. The timing of it.
Do me a favor. If you see some dudes in black suits like come down off the roof, just give me a heads up, all right? Just be like,
I'll just be quiet and let them just put you out quietly. You didn't know it's coming.
Look, code term, duck, goose, okay? And I'm be like, oh.
It's like, the screen's going to go off.
Yeah.
Like, oh, snap.
Yeah. Yep.
But I mean, like with that,
he's gone.
That year of COVID, look at the timing of that. It was with an election year, right? And that's usually typically kind of chaotic in itself. Who knows what's going to happen next year with this next one? So here's my thing, right? So, granted, March 2020, I'm not even in Cali. I'm thinking I'm actually, because they're shutting things down in Cali, or in the States. In February, other countries were shutting down. We didn't start shutting down till February, till March. I'm thinking I'm going to get stuck in Texas. I get back a day or two before the actual shutdown. I didn't think it was going to actually happen. I was like, they're not going to like really shut like everything down, are they? And then they did. And then at first, I think I was talking to you, and I was like, "Oh, it's to last like a month." And you're like, "No, I think I'm hearing that it might last till June." I'm like, "June? Like what? How are they gonna keep everything shut down till June?" I'm like,
I
"No,
remember
like
that conversation.
impossible. Like that's not gonna happen." And then I think we got to like May, and you're like, "Man, they're talking about
two fucking years later."
yeah."
Yeah.
And you're like, "Yeah, they might go to like through the end of the year." It's like, what is going on? Like this is crazy, right? So they had everybody tucked in,
Contact tracing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man.
Watching your every move.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
there was all this chaos going on, right? You got George Floyd, all this other stuff that's going on, these riots and all that stuff. People with masks outside, rioting and stuff. But my thing is like, so everybody's tucked in, limited movements, right? Minimal movement from the masses, the entire planet. Let's just say, conspiracy theory wise, right? There was a purpose behind that. What the hell did they do while we were tucked in our houses watching Netflix all day? Was it the Lion, Tiger King, and all those other shows, you know what I'm saying? Money Heist and all that. What was being moved that were unbeknownst to us or transport, whatever, while we were tucked in nice and safe because the big bad virus was out there that we couldn't, normal day-to-day operations could not be going on because something might have been going on unbeknownst to us. I don't know.
They had their top secret meeting in fucking Antarctica with the aliens. That's what they did.
Who knows? I mean, because it makes me wonder. Because I mean, like, like the entire planet was on the same page with this thing. And the things we've had, big bad viruses that come through. I'm not knocking COVID. COVID was a nasty thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it was something that anyone should have taken lightly. However,
there's also a man-made virus, though.
Yeah,
a man-made virus.
And it's not even like, well,
So we as a
species,
yeah, on a planet, we did that shit to ourselves.
Of course.
We already know we have the ability to take ourselves out.
Absolutely.
Nuclear holocaust, and nuclear holocaust is probably the least violent.
I mean, look
of what they probably got cooked up. I mean,
that's that type of biological warfare has been around since forever. Look what they did to the Native Americans with the smallpox blankets. You know what I'm saying? Like, so like them cooking up this virus is kind of like weak sauce compared to that. I mean, shit. I mean, there's some nasty stuff out there for sure. People, this is what I was saying before, right? This is where, as amazing as it is that we have like antibiotics and all these different things from technology, we also are using technology to destroy ourselves we're cooking up viruses. We're hoarding like Ebola just in case we need to flick it at the enemy and try to wipe other human beings out. Like this is what we're doing to each other. You know what I'm saying? And anthrax, all these different things, right? Smallpox, we're having to get vaccinated for stuff like that. Like the tech is there to preserve, like to help the human race survive, but at the same time, we're using it to destroy each other because of whatever reason. Nuclear technology is amazing.
I think
it's used properly.
Political agenda, man. I mean, look, I'll use the scenario, the big country concert shooting in Vegas.
Yeah,
right.
That's crazy.
Right around, and it happened just before elections again, right? And I think this was Hillary versus Trump. And I had multiple friends that were there, at that concert. And, I read up on that a little bit. And again, look, I'm not saying I believe it. Could have just been some crazy fucking dude. But the rounds that were fired, the arsenal that they found, like how, like just the basic questions, like how did that dude get that in that hotel into that room, set up shop, unload everything he unloaded, by himself. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's just some weird stuff there in the midst of arguably one of the bigger anti-gun administrative pushes that we've ever seen, you know? And it's like, oh, okay, well, what better way to get our point across than to have this guy magically have all the weapons we're trying to outlaw on his person and be like, yeah, Second Amendment. That needs to change, you know, like we need to take your weapons and we shouldn't have them anymore because guns kill people.
I mean, you could even say that to really kind of push that agenda, if indeed if it is the case, that's the point. All these school shootings could be more of the same. You're hiring, kind of like almost like, how they do, like this, say, like in the Middle East, right? They find folks that are like in dire need. They're like, hey, listen, strap this bomb to your chest for the cause. We'll take care of your family when you're gone. You know what I'm saying? Maybe, let's just say, I don't know, this conspiracy theory, right? They're doing that with folks that are hurting. Maybe they're going after the people that are a little mentally just off, just a tad bit. Maybe they put some little they've been, these people are under hypnosis. Who knows, right? It's like, hey, you will go there. You will take this automatic, semi-automatic weapon, whatever. And I'm gonna need you to just like on some Manchurian Candidate type stuff, right? Going in there and just start shooting. And we keep doing this enough, we're gonna get the people riled up, and we can get our way. We can finally get guns either banned completely, which it's never gonna happen, or we can, whatever regulation we want to impose on gun enthusiasts or the gun law, Second Amendment rights, whatever, we can now do that because now people are fed up because obviously something has to change. But that's what perhaps that's what they're doing with these folks.
Well, you know what else kills people? Vehicles.
Well,
and now
it's robots.
combining. Yes, that's exactly where I was going with this. So now you got cars driving folks around without anybody at the controls.
Mm-hmm.
So you're leaving it up to the robot, the AI, whatever the artificial intelligent engine is to get you from A to B.
Mm-hmm.
You're now hopping in this vehicle trusting that this thing is somehow safer than human reaction, right? And is going to get you where you need to go. Until, let's just assume, there are no more vehicles operated by people. And, the powers that be, all of a sudden, now I'm really going off the deep end here.
Mm-hmm.
But the powers that be, they're like, they have all of us tracked. And like, if you're not in the top, let's just say 85% of the population, I'm being generous here. If you're not in the top 85%, you're in the lower 15%, meaning you're not really a big contributing factor to the economy, to the world around you or otherwise.
Dead.
And all of a sudden, that car just takes a hard left,
off a cliff.
off a cliff. Yeah. And that lower 15% are gone.
Yeah.
Or you know what? Let's go because the 80-20 rule, that lower 20% are gone.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Because now somehow, magically, that's going to solve our problem, right?
Population
let's
control.
Get rid of the people who... Oh, shit.
You know what I'm saying? It's just like, yo, like you're a strain on the economy.
For the record, ninjas. He said that, not me. Duck, goose.
No, I mean, the thing is when you think about stuff like that, it can go sideways very fast, like very, very fast. The more we keep giving up our control, you now leave yourself open for that, that possibility. As soon as you say, I don't want to drive, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, you start giving it to, if you don't want to, even like for folks that, they might complain, oh my God, like my accountant, robbed me blind. It's because you wanted to give them that control over your finances. So they were able to do that to you. It's like, who's to say that like, in the beginning, your car's going to be perfect. Oh, it's going to be spot on. But then one day out of nowhere, you're taking that nap like you normally do. This is a regular boring ass day. And then, it goes off a cliff and now you're on the news. And then you spread that out across the year. Like, right. Like we're getting mass shootings about like once a month, maybe like a few times a month. You do it enough, it just becomes the norm. There's just random cars going off cliffs. And people are like, yo, but the thing about it, I still got to drive. Like I have no choice, right?
I still got to get from A to B.
People are still sending their kids to school. despite the fact that there's mass shootings in schools. You know what I'm saying? We're just kind of rolling the dice. So I guess we're do active shooter drills now, right? So we just continue to do, even though that's a possibility. And no one's going to be the wiser because that becomes like just a new norm. So now, we play a numbers game.
When was the last time? When was the last time you heard about a high-powered public official or their family getting in a situation like that?
In terms of what? Someone like dying, or like the Kennedys
somebody
kind of
dying,
thing?
well, yeah, but like their kids being involved in that kind of school shooting, like some high-powered official being on an airplane that goes down or something like that. Like for the most part, like you never, these people that end up dying, furthering my conspiracy, folks. Yeah, it's folks that are just like, oh yeah, well, I knew this person, I knew that person, whatever else, like
because they're nameless though.
Like
they're nameless, like they're just 9/11. They're just random.
9/11.
Yeah.
How did thousands of people die? And to the best of my knowledge, in the World Trade Center, it wasn't like the high-powered folks. It was just the day-to-day people, and then a bunch of obviously first responders.
I mean, there was some, I think, some CEOs that took an L as well.
Well, I mean, you gotta you gotta sacrifice a few.
You gotta make it look
good. I
suppose. You gotta make it look good.
Yeah, make it look realistic.
It's actually a great movie. I don't know if I told you about this flick. It's called Worth. It's starring Michael Keaton, and I'd never heard of this. So basically, Michael Keaton plays the guy who had to determine the value of every person that died in the World Trade Center. He had to determine the value.
No kidding.
And at first you're thinking like, okay, like what? So because he was like an insurance guy, and people wanted to be compensated. So like, okay, well, you need to designate who's worth more. So like it became like this thing because he was saying, okay, CEO gets this much money, the janitor gets this much money, and people are like,
you did tell me about that. Yeah.
What? You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's just like, how can you put a price on the value of like a life? You know what I'm saying? Just because that was his job doesn't mean he's necessarily worth more. He just, he made some money, but who says that he was actually like a decent individual? Like there's just so many things that came into play, and they're just putting it in terms of like what he earned as opposed to like the fact that he was just a human that died in a horrible tragedy, and they're trying to say that the janitor was worth less, even though once again, you're talking about people. And so, it was very interesting.
Because if you have to give there's speculation versus if you have to assign a number to somebody, right? Like if there's only one, I mean, to draw that comparison, you have to start it on an even playing field, right? So meaning if all life is equal up until the point that you die, we can only value your worth based on your particular occupation and what you gave to society, what you offered at that moment as society. And I'll use this without saying too much. Remember that exercise we went through about a year ago?
Yeah.
And there were 3 different ways of measuring the overall victory, but the inspectors only focused on 1/3 of that. It was because that 1/3 could be measured across the entire force, if you will, and everybody was on the same playing field within that 1/3. The other 2/3, there was too many factors, right? I made a huge argument about this, and I wish I could go into more detail, but I would certainly go to prison, so I will not do that. But essentially, that's what you were getting. You were getting rated on, I guess. Like that's what your worth was whether or not you could succeed in that 1/3. So
I mean, is if you want to throw. Because this is where it gets kind of jacked up, right? Because there's great people who didn't make a lot of money, but they had a huge impact, like a Mother Teresa, let's just say. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Or like even like a Gandhi, whatever. And then you got these Jeff Bezos types that, crushing it, also has an impact in his own way. But how if you're talking dollars and cents,
maybe not a huge fair comparison there, though, because even though Mother Teresa, Gandhi, even though they didn't take anything, people gave
Indeed.
millions to their cause.
No doubt. But I mean, but that's what I'm saying though, is that it's, if you're living a life of service, you know, if you're a janitor, if you're a, or whatever, just some receptionist, I mean, still, you know, how you, I don't know, quality of the individuals, but I would try to base it off, but you can't because the people are dead, right? And their
Yep.
families are all, and the thing is, the janitor's leaving behind, let's say 3 kids and a wife. And let's say the CEO who's been banking, right, is also living behind like a child and a wife. But yet I would think that the janitor and his family are going to need a little bit more compensation than the other family, right? I mean, if this guy was, you know what I'm saying? He's making a lot of dough. Not to say that maybe he's living beyond his means because, you know, Wall Street guy, whatever. However, I mean, if we're going to take care of folks, that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, it's hard to, like,
Yeah,
that job is
that's
impossible. That job is
Yeah,
impossible.
but that's not how you look at things, though, because that janitor's life. So that janitor, let's say he's married to a nanny,
Mhm.
right? So let's just assume they're both combined still making minimum wage. Today's minimum wage is what, $15 an hour. So combined, they're making $30 an hour, right? So $30 an hour times 8 hours a day, right?
Mhm.
It's $240 a day, right? So you know, they're in a week they're making about $1,200 between the two of them, right? In a week.
Okay.
Whereas that CEO was probably making $2,000 a day, you know, and the life that he lived and the assets that he had
Yeah.
and the family that he was raising also to be that like-minded, higher thinking, higher achieving, right? That's going to take that much more investment to make sure those types of people come out of that travesty versus the janitor family where you're always destined to just be the lower scale of the economy.
But I mean, not to say that they're,
And we're gonna keep you there because as the government, you fucking can.
like no, you know, the goal is probably to, you know, raise a kid because, you know, like let's just say you're second generation, you know, first generation, second generation, let's just say, and you're like the one who's going to take the family to like the next level. You know what I'm saying? Now you've got the education that we didn't have because we came from another country, whatever. We started all over, da da da, and they're pushing for that for their kid. You know, trying to give their kid the same opportunities as the kid that comes from a more affluent background. But the thing about those still, the CEO, if you know he's gone, what can that family do that comes from that place of money? What they can, now, granted, it would be tough to do this, but they at least have assets that can be sold that can, you know, they could, you know, become like a source of income, if you will. Not income, but like, you know, something that there's money. Whereas like the janitor didn't have that. He didn't have any assets that he could sell to keep the family afloat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's the way that we roll, though, man. That's otherwise it's like, and I think I'm using the right term here, but like, you know, the more communistic type society where everybody is worth the same and everybody gets the same, whether you're alive or you're dead, that's government control and their ability to say, nope, you will stay here and you will stay there forever with the very few anomalies that rise to the top. You know what I mean? So, because that CEO also probably had the ability to max out his 401ks, but then also afford someone who can, you know, retirement, you know, tax attorneys and all that kind of stuff. He can afford those people, got them on payroll to make sure his money is making money. You know, he's got probably 10 different life insurance policies that guarantee that, you know, his wife's going to get 10 mil if he ever dies. Whereas the janitor, he can't afford to max out a $21,000 a year 401k plan.
No, exactly.
You know, because he might only make $21,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't make enough money to even attempt to afford to get ahead. And the government's just not going to help you out like that.
No. I mean, it's always going to come down to that, you know, and that's how it always comes down to dollars, cents, and it's just not a fair game. Life's not fair. It's just what it is.
It's not fair.
It's not meant to be fair. Some animals get eaten Some do not. You know, some animals are prey, some are predators. It's just it's just the nature of the beast, man. The circle of life, you know.
So I read this other thing right here too, and I know I'm always the guy who's like, oh, look at the time. It's been an hour and 20 minutes. But this guy was saying, he goes, do me a favor. He goes, without distraction, right? Without distraction, sit at your kitchen dining room table, right? Kids are in bed, wife's at her job, whatever, you know, put the dogs outside, the cat's upstairs sleeping on the bed, whatever it is, but sit down in a peaceful environment and write your own, eulogy. Write your eulogy. He goes, and when you're done, read it, analyze it. Are you satisfied with it? He goes, because if you're not, rip it up, and tomorrow start write start writing the eulogy that you want for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's just it, right? So if you cut out all the other garbage, political climate, political agenda, I don't care if you're on the left, the right, in between, whatever it may be, alphabet people, like, it doesn't fucking matter where your allegiances and alliances stand. And this is how I roll, and you know this. Like, my life, how I live my life is all about the legacy that I'm going to leave behind, right? So that my eulogy, if I was to die, and I'll tell you right now, if I was to die tomorrow, this is not me hoping this on myself, obviously. I want to see my kids grow up, and I want to see who they become, and I want to have grandbabies and be close to them. You know what I mean? Like, I want to live to 120 years old. I really do. But if I was to die tomorrow, because I've thought about this, morbid or not, I think there'd be quite a few people that showed up, and I think 99% of them would have a lot of really awesome things to say about who I was as a human, who I was as a friend, as a family member, a father, a husband, whatever it may be, a worker, a boss. Like, I think there would be a lot of really positive things to be said. And I think that I would be okay. And now, going back on a conversation we had a couple episodes ago, could have been last episode, I don't remember, but my self-realization of how I'm going to die and when I'm going to die, what that looks like, does scare me a little bit now, being almost 40 years old, if this could be my halfway point in life. But on the flip side of that, if I was to die tomorrow, I think that the legacy that I would leave behind would be one that people would remember for a very long time, and it would be very positive, which is what I'm going for.
Mm-hmm.
So,
hey, the impact that we leave, negative or positive, I don't know.
yep.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a personal choice, though.
And on that note, I'll probably grab both my babies tonight and pull them into bed with me. Hold them close.
Oh.
Dude, I tell you, I had just the sweetest thing happen yesterday. So I'll even, you know what? I'm not even going to go into why I got so upset, because just honestly, it just doesn't matter. Like, one of the just happiest moments of my recent life happened yesterday. And my girls were like, Daddy, we know it's a school night, but it's still kind of early. The sun's up. And my youngest still thinks that I can control the sun. She asked me today, she goes, Dad, I want to play a little bit longer outside. Can you turn the sun up again? I was like, baby, there's other people trying to go to sleep though right now and wind down. So I don't want to turn the sun up and then ruin their day. She's like, okay, I guess that makes sense. I'm like, all right. So yesterday we go inside. They're like, can we just watch a movie? I was like, all right. So we laid down, we got on the couch, reclined back. I had one under this arm. The other one came and tucked herself up under this arm. And I think they were watching Toy Story or something. And I was beat. I was beat. And I kind of dozed off, and I came back, I was like, oh. And they were both just hands on my chest, watching their movie. I woke up my little one. She's like, oh, Daddy, you're awake. And she looked at me, she goes, I love you so much. Thank you for just cuddling with us and letting us watch a movie. And I was like, ugh, I'm doing something right. I'm doing something right. So if that was their last moment on earth with me, as devastating as that would be, I would be okay with that. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. Doesn't take a whole lot.
Yeah.
Doesn't take a whole lot. That'll be the things that they remember. You know what I'm saying? You can do all this other crap, whatever, but they'll probably be like, you know what? I just like just hanging out with my dad. Just, you know, he'd probably doze off or watch or whatever, but like that's probably the thing that they're gonna probably that'll be what they think about or remember down the road. The simple stuff.
Yeah.
You know? That's it.
That's just it, man. These little people, they just want to be connected
That's
to you.
it.
They just want to spend time with you, man. Like, and how much, you know, going back to like what we were talking about earlier about, you know, working hard and, you know, making your efforts away from home, you know, be worthwhile. So when you come home, you feel validated. That's really just for us, right? You know, they don't give a shit about that, nor should
No.
they. You know, they're not old enough. They don't comprehend that. But, you know, when you have the time and they're begging you for your time, fucking give them the time. You know, put the phone down, you know, close the laptop, because I guarantee most of that shit can wait till tomorrow,
Yeah.
you know, when they're not around, you
All
know?
the social
So-
media crap, that's I had to catch myself back in the day. This is when I started really becoming um kind of anti social media, I guess you could say. Cause like mine, she was, you know, she was little. And I didn't have like all the time in the world with her. You know, I had, like my time was very limited. So, you know, she'd be with me. And I remember this one particular time, and granted, this has been going on for a while, but this one particular time, she came up to me and I'm sitting at the table. I'm on my laptop. I'm on Facebook, just going in, you know, just got home, took off my stuff, whatever. And I sat down. And I had a tendency back then to sit down. And then before I knew it, the sun was down. It's like almost 9, 10 o'clock. I'm like, holy smokes, you know, just get lost in it, you know, just completely just lost track. But there's one particular time, Munchkin runs up to me. She's like, hey, Dad, can you come play with me? And I was like, hey, well, yeah. Just give me like 5 minutes. Hold on a second. No. And I kind of like shoved her, told her to go play and I'll be there in a little bit. She said, okay. I turn around, I go back to scrolling, and then I froze. I was like, holy smokes. I just chose Facebook over my kid. And I was like, we're done here. And I logged out. I ended up closing my account and I went and I played dollies with my kid, which I don't like to play dollies, but I was like, what am I doing that I don't get all that? I don't have all the time in the world with her. And I told her to go do her thing by herself so I can get back on to the funny papers, like this stupid shit, which is Facebook. I was like, you know what? This makes no sense. And the thing about it, like I caught myself, but there's folks that don't catch themselves. They don't take that moment to be like, holy smokes, like I choose my kid over social media. And they are losing that battle on a consistent basis. And that's how these kids end up raising themselves on iPads and stuff like that, because nobody is taking the time to give them that affection, that time, that effort, you know? Because I think back to that all the time because I was like, man, I could easily, like my situation with my daughter is amazing now, but maybe that could have been something like had I not caught myself and changed that whole scenario, that we are not where we are now because I chose social media over her. Now, granted, that's kind of an extreme. However, I think about it all the time, like, okay, well, this is why, like, for me, I just shut it all down. And I could care less. I mean, luckily I've kind of weathered that storm. Like social media to me is like not a thing anymore, really. But there was a time when it very much was. Very much was.
You know, I love quotes, and so I put them in here every chance I get. But there's another one that it's right in line with what you're saying, and it said that you have to raise your kids so that you can spoil your grandkids. Because if you don't raise your kids, you're gonna have to raise your grandkids, right? So, like, or I'm sorry, if you have to raise your children so you can spoil your grandchildren, because if you spoil your children, you're going to have to raise your grandchildren. I think that's essentially what it is, right? Like you have to instill the life values in your kids It's not saying you can't spoil them. Spoil them with love. Spoil them with kindness. Spoil them with understanding and affection, you know, but you don't have to spoil them by giving them everything that they want, because then they're not going to learn that there's a threshold for that, and that when they become adults, they're just going to expect things like certain generations we deal with right now. And I'm not trying to lump entire groups of people into one generation, even though that's technically by definition what it is. You get what I'm saying? There's a lot of folks out there who just want now. They want things now, and they don't want to work for it. They just want to be handed things, because I have to assume their parents did not raise them and instill in them the fact that you don't fucking get what you want all the time. Sometimes the answer is no. And what I've been working on with my girls lately is that it is the next level beyond that, which is not that sometimes the answer is no, but when the answer is no, you need to be okay with that, and you need to move about your life, right? We need to accept that, when daddy says something like, here's another one. This guy goes, I wanted to raise my kids to understand instant, like right now, immediate. And I was like, where's he going with this? And he gave a great example. He goes, so that when I say something, I teach them, and I'm teaching my kids right now, if I start to speak, you stop what you're doing immediately and you listen. The guy goes, because let's the situation he gave, he goes, let's assume you're out playing in the street, and I say, get out of the street.
Yep.
You might not have time in that moment, because maybe I see some car doing 60 coming right at you, and you don't have time to stop and be like, but I don't want to. Why? Like, no.
Yeah.
It needs to be immediate, because this is a life or death
thing. Absolutely.
And then, right. And the next level of that I started thinking about, I was like, and I actually told my oldest this today. I was like, baby, look, if I say get out of the road and you hesitate, or you ignore me, or you stop to say why, I now am going to put myself in harm's way to save your life, because I love you more than you love you, because you don't have enough time on this earth to understand what you're worth. But you are mine. You are my child. So I will run out in front of that 60-mile-an-hour car, and I will shove you out of the way to preserve your life, therefore sacrificing my own. And her eyes got so big and so wide, and she was like, I think I understand now. I'm like, okay. So you thinking and understanding is step one. Step two is acting on it. So from now on, if I say Capri, you stop what you're doing. I don't care if you're coloring, doing homework, playing with your sister, riding your bike. You stop and you listen. And then you act, and then we can talk about it. I'm like, I'm all about talking about it after the fact. But if you want to talk about it in the moment, assuming we have time to talk about it in the moment, I'm going to get upset, because you just proved to me that you're not willing to stop and listen and do what I'm asking you right now, which could, like you said, safety could save your life. So,
I'm very much that same mentality. I like with mine. It's if the first time I speak, you're not already skipping and moving, we have a problem. Like and for me, I don't, especially like for me, with it's kind of like how it was like with my dad. Being like a single parent, I don't have the energy nor the time to repeat myself. You know what I'm saying? And the thing about it is that you're not gonna like the outcome if I have to repeat myself. You know what I'm saying? So either you get with it now,
fun time is
100%.
over.
Like there's no, because it's like, especially like when you're so like there's this, if you're trying to do all the different things to make life happen, to make it work, like that extra is someone's gonna lose their mind. And like I told this to my sister. I was like, I am the parent. So if anyone's gonna get worn out, it's gonna be them. You know what I mean? Because it's not for me to get exhausted because of this little person, whatever. I used to tell her, I was like, yo, I'd rather just bust them up one good time and I get my point across, as opposed to the back and forth. I'm not trying to negotiate with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, and the
Yeah.
thing is, I would love to have the conversation once you've done it. Hey, like, what was the deal with that? Let's talk about it. Absolutely. And now
Exactly.
but it's been done. It's been, what I asked you to do has been, you executed, you did what you're supposed to do. Now, as you're talking to me, we could talk about it. Absolutely. Well, I didn't like that. Well, no, that's fine. Because guess what? I'm dad and you're a kid. So you lose. That's just life, right? When you get older, you can be, you turn 18, do whatever you want. Who cares? But at that point, you're going to probably see it my way anyway. So, so I think when it comes to that, I think it's a safety thing. It is a, you don't know shit thing. You know what I'm saying? You're a little kid. You just showed up. I've been here for a little bit. I know what I'm talking about. And I'm trying to, self-preservation. I'm trying to keep you alive. You know what I'm saying? So, it's not about asking, we're not here to argue, negotiate right now. We'll talk later when things have settled and we're just kind of BSing. If you want to know more, by all means, ask me what my train of thought was, whatever. But like, probably at that point, it's going to be like, whatever. They're not going to give a damn anyway. They're going to go back to doing what they do. Like, fun. But like, there's keeping them alive because the world is trying to kill them. And then there's self-preservation because I'm trying to kill you because you didn't listen to what the hell I told you to do. You know what I'm saying? So like, and luckily, kids are smart. They pick up the pattern eventually.
Well, they do,
man.
right? My 8-year-old right now. I mean, she's going through. Let's just say we've had a recaging week, right? Because she's been arguing with her mom, butting heads a lot, and I told her, I was like, look, like this is going to go one of two ways. Like you can start listening, or I'm going to make your life very difficult. I'm like, you think your life is tough when you get told no, but the reality is your life is incredibly simple, but I'm going to show you just how complicated I can make it and just how boring your life can actually be. So I told her this a few days ago, and I have stuck with it because, I mean, I, like you, I don't like to say things more than once, right? So I told her, I was like, I'm also not going to argue with you anymore, right? I'm going to say what I have to say. And if you want to start arguing with me, or ask why or whatever, I'll give you a little bit more information, but just enough that you need to know, just what you need to know, bearing in mind that the overarching point is that you need to listen and do what I'm asking you to do, period, dot. So as soon as she's like, but I don't, or, she does that whole like playing dumb thing where she's like, well, I don't really know the answer. I'm like, cool. Well, you can sit here until you figure it out. Meanwhile, I'm going to go outside and do the slip and slide in the backyard or go in the pool, with your little sister because she's actually, acting right, right now. So our fun is not going to end, but your fun is until you figure it out. And it never fails. So, but there's levels to this, right? You got to keep digging in, right? People are like, oh my God, like I have a feeling like my kids' teachers probably think that I'm just an asshole. And you know what? That tells me I'm doing something right.
Dang.
And I'll get to that. I'll get to that in a second because I have a very important point to make on that, which is a little bit sidebar, but a very important point. But, without fail, she'll come out. Eventually she'll be like, okay, Dad, like, I'm sorry I wasn't listening and starting to argue with you. And okay, I'll do it now. I'm like, okay, great. You get that done, then you can come back and join in. I'm like, but then I take it to the next level and I'm like, but you hurt my feelings. So you're not going to have fun because if my feelings are hurt, your feelings need to be hurt, right? That eye for an eye thing. You're not going to get to just come out here and say, I'm sorry for doing the same thing, not listening or not, doing what you're told, whatever it is, not following rule, not obeying me. You don't just get to come say, I'm sorry, and then move on while I'm still stewing over it because my feelings are hurt, which I don't get my feelings hurt, but she doesn't need to know that. The point is that I'm telling her so she understands in her 8-year-old brain, you have the ability to hurt people's feelings. And you can't just move on through life ignoring the fact that you hurt somebody's feelings and never acknowledging that. She's like, well, what do I do? I'm like, I need you to figure out how to apologize without me prompting you to apologize. Because if you figure out how to do it on your own, at least I feel like you're thinking about it, and therefore maybe it means a little bit more. She's like, oh, well, I am sorry I hurt your feelings, Daddy, And I'm like, okay, that's a good start. Next time, I'm not going to prompt you. Right? So there's that whole evolution. Now,
that's
let me take
that's
this.
that you know what? You're way better than me, because my way of me understanding that you know that you either, granted, like, feelings or whatever, you're just done for the day. And if you enjoyed being out of the game for like however long I deemed necessary, you're going to correct yourself. Because like, yo, do you want to go do what you did yesterday? That sucked, right? So you might want to go ahead and act correct. Or I can go ahead and lay the smack down, however you want to do it. I'm trying to be nice by just taking you out of the game as opposed to just blasting you. I mean, so I still tell my kid all the time, like, yo, do I need to, like, we gotta light you up right quick? Does that at least get you back on track? No. Okay, cool. Go do what you gotta do. Handle your business. Correct yourself before I have to correct you. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. No,
well, I mean, it is.
No, I was gonna say, like,
and it's different. There's different tactics, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, like, not every situation calls for me blasting you or me punishing. Like, so I've gotten to the point now where I'm like, I think I've made my point on XYZ, and from now on, I'm going to let you come to your own conclusions. But you're going to do it while you sit inside on your butt in silence with nothing else to do. And once you figure it out, you can come tell me what you figured out. And if it's the right answer, we'll move on. If it's the wrong answer, you're going to go sit back down and think about it some more,
Yeah.
So what was interesting is I was, again, because this is just where I'm at. And these are the articles that pop up on my, whether it be social media or fucking Google or whatever. This is just the shit that pops up, it's like, oh, this is what he must enjoy reading. There was this guy who went and interviewed a child molester. This kid, like, convicted, like, red shirt child molester, whatever they call them. He did it a lot. It's disgusting, and it's a tough topic to talk about. But they asked him during his life sentence or whatever, like, how did you choose your targets? Like, were there certain types of kids you went after? And he goes, oh, I didn't choose my targets based on the child. I chose it based on the parents. I was like, okay. And then he keeps talking. He goes, if I ever viewed their father as a threat, I never went near him. He goes, I went after the ones that were ignoring their kids, the ones that would stare at their phones all the time, that didn't fucking pay attention. He goes, they weren't a threat. I could scoop up their kid and be gone, and they'd be staring at their phone for 15 minutes before they even realized their child was missing. And I'm like, getting inside the mind of the people that do that kind of shit kind of helps you guard your child against that type of stuff. And so I sent that to my wife, because I told her, I was like, when you think I'm being tough, when you think I'm raising my voice and other people can hear, good. Good. I will be viewed as a threat. Yeah. Because I will fuck you up. And I do pay attention, right? When my kids are out in the streets, my phone's in my pocket. Like, I'm not sitting here surfing, playing a fucking game, like, on instant. Like, no, I am hyper focused on my children and where they're at all times. And I'm trying to give a little bit of lenience to my 8-year-old so she can feel a little bit more independent and stuff like that. But again, that's me also having to instill those values in her of, if I can't trust you to tell me you're going to point A so that I know where to find you immediately if I need you, if you're going to wander, if I go to point A and you're not there, we're done here. We're not doing that again for a while. I need to know that I can trust you, because we had that situation happen recently, and she was just out scootering. She wasn't doing anything harmful or illegal or, ill intent. She didn't have that, but, she was told, stay between here and here. and she decided to veer off, and she was missing for like 45 minutes. And my wife was like breaking down, shaking, like all these things, you know? I mean, we did a whole episode on my niece, and, you know, I've talked to my daughter about that too. I'm like, you know, my niece, you know, I don't know the full backstory on all that, but I have to imagine if her mother knew that she was going to go get in a souped up car and go joyriding, her mother would have been like, absolutely not. You know, she chose to go do something outside of what she told her mother she was going to do. And unfortunately, we'll never know. We'll never know because now she's gone. Right. And so I told my 8-year-old that too. Like I'm giving it to her raw and unfiltered these days, because I'm like, I need you to understand exactly what you said earlier. This world is here to get you. This world is here to take you out. There are so many things that we didn't worry about when we were kids. And we're only talking about, you know, 20, 30 years removed, you know. But I grew up on 180 acres in Alabama. I would leave in the morning after breakfast. I'd come home before the sun went down, and my parents had no clue where I was or what I was doing for the majority of the day. But my dad knew at a minimum, because it was 180 acres and it was family land and it was private land, that odds are I'm on the property somewhere. And he knew my normal go-to spots. If he's on his dirt bike, he probably went back to the pit, right? Because that was the most fun place to ride. You know, if we went out with paintball guns, well, we went over to our little paintball thing that me and my cousins built, you know. Other than that, I was probably in plain view, because one of my favorite things to do as a child was driving tractor. I loved it, you know. I put the backhoe on, you know, I'd put the bush hog on the tractor and I'd go mow a field that hadn't been mowed in years, because I just loved being on the tractor. My dad's like, hey, since you're riding, let's put the bush hog on and let's go ahead and wipe out that, you know, that 15 acres over there that hadn't been mowed in a couple of years, you know? Yeah. You know, try not to hit any big rocks, you know, don't fuck up my blades. But it's a different world we live in now. You know what I mean? Like the fact that we even have to have these conversations.
Shit, man. Yeah. Especially with these kids, you know, active shooters or whatnot. I mean, it's a regular thing now. So yeah, you gotta train them. You gotta train them to have a little more street smart, a little more aware. You know, don't think that just because you're in, I don't know, whatever neighborhood you're in, or you think this is a nice mall or whatever, like the shit can't pop off, because it can anytime, anywhere. Don't let your guard down. Now, granted, I'm not sitting there, you know, this isn't, you know, the West Bank. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not, you know, we're not constantly under fire, but like, you know, I think, you know, you get too lax, you start taking things, you know, you start thinking like, oh, you become a little too safe. That's when you get caught slipping. And some guy comes in and, you know, all the signs were there, but nobody's being vigilant. Nobody's, you know, people are just kind of letting things slide. Whatever. Oh, he just left a backpack there. No big deal. You know, and then, you know, stuff like that pops off, or this guy looks kind of crazy. He's got a, you know, trench coat and a hoodie, and it's 130 degrees outside. You know, I don't know, like just certain things. It's like none of this makes you guys, you know, none of your the hair on the back of your neck doesn't start standing up or nothing like that. And that's why I think, like, you know, we get like, we're really comfortable out here in the States, which is great. It's great that we're comfortable. However, like, I think at this point, you know, the world, you know, things have shown us that this isn't, you know, we need to be a little more, we got to harden up a little bit, you know, and like all that. I mean, to me, I think that, you know, you're still free to do whatever, but like, you still got, you know, you got to harden up a little bit. You got to raise your kid to be smart, you know? So like with mine, we talk contingencies now. We had like a great conversation about, you know, so what are you going to do if, you know, you're in transit from class to class? Like, what are you going to do? Like, where are your exits at? Well, I guess I'd go this way if the guy came this way. I mean, we're talking about if you're in the cafeteria, now what, you know? And she's, you know, and she was just like, yeah, she had already kind of considered it, which I thought was kind of awesome. But, you know, these are the conversations that we have, you know, just about just the day to day, what she's thinking, what she, you know, how does she see the world? How is she interpreting it? You know, does it make you kind of fearful to go to school? You know, like what's going on? You know, I want to know, you know, because I didn't live through that. You know, I had a different, it was more just like understood, I guess, not just random occurrences. It's kind of like always a threat, I guess you could say, you know, at this, the school I graduated from. So with that, it's like you kind of going into it like, you know, keeping your, you know, your eyes are up, you know,
Don't raise ignorant children,
Man.
man. Like don't shelter them to the point that they don't understand how to operate out there. Teach your kids. Teach them and give them and look, I'm not saying I'm a perfect parent, but I'm fucking trying, right? And I think most parents probably are, but I see a lot of parents out there and I travel. I'm in and out of airports constantly, you know, and more now than ever, everybody, including kids, they're just eyes down on their phones, their iPads, whatever it may be. And this is nothing new. I'm not saying anything new. Everybody knows this. But the first thing that goes through my mind, like I'm getting ready to go, I'm getting ready to take my kids back to my parents' house. So we're about to do a cross country in an airport. And I'm already thinking about what I'm going to talk to them about and teach them about airport travel and stuff like that as we're going through, the lessons that I can teach because I live in airports. I'm in and out of them every single week, so, all these other kids, who are begging for the iPad or whatever else, but they don't have their eyes up, keep your head on a swivel, right? We were taught that, always keep your head on a
there's
swivel.
something that you can teach them,
and
because this is something I do with mine, because she's always in airports by herself traveling. When you're with them, especially like the older one, your 8-year-old, have her navigate you guys to your gate. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, we got to get to gate, C4, whatever. How do I get there?
Yep.
Okay, let's talk about step one, look up. You know what I mean? There goes all your signs.
Yep.
And then you can show her, like, there's also this, say you don't know what gate you're going to. Here's this wall. This is what this means. These are the flights. This is the flight number. These are the destinations. And just kind of show her how to navigate that airport. Because this is like a life skill she's going to have to do anyway down the road. So at least now she has like the exposure to it. And after a while, when she gets used to it, now she'll be like, oh, hey, Dad, like, where's our gate? It becomes like a game. All right, so which one? How do we get there?
It's a game.
Yeah, it's hey, Dad, what gate are we going to next? So you have like a connecting flight. Oh, okay, cool. Like, let me see. Okay, we gotta go this way. Okay, cool. I'm following you. Boom. And then let that be the thing. So now it's just like, okay, like she can take control over the situation. She can get you from point A to point B. And then your munchkin, the little one, is looking to be like, oh, okay, yeah, look up. I'm following my sister. But now she's also kind of picking up on the same thing, And then that'd be, something that, and like I said, it's a life skill. People use airports. They know how to travel. They know how to do these things.
I already know. I already know what my little one's gonna be. I'm gonna be like, hey, listen to your gut. My little one's gonna be like, my gut's telling me we need to go to the TCBY right now.
Like that, fine.
Because my tummy wants ice cream, and you told me to follow the signs, and it's right there.
Yeah. I think that's something to do. How do I get it from point A to point
I like
B?
that. No, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that.
I'm always looking for ways to.
That's great.
To teach real life to my kiddo, or whatever. If someone doesn't know, I'll be like, oh shit, I'm a little familiar with that. Let me go ahead and school you right quick, and then now So especially with her, because I want her to be, very, very just supremely independent. So, and she's pretty much that, but there's still some holes that need to be worked out, like learning how to drive and things like that.
She's young though, man. She's only 15.
Yeah, it's,
for now.
Yeah, so she'll be
for
ready.
now. Yeah.
So yeah, good deal.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah,
that feels like a natural wrapping up.
Yeah.
Of a conversation.
I think so. Sure, a couple hours on the mic. Well, appreciate folks for sticking it out. We kind of talked about. Shit. I mean, granted, we went from infidelity to time travel to like a little child.
This is what we do, man. That's what we do. That's what we do. That's what we do, though. So the Cruxmen, man, we've said this before, we'll say it again, man. I mean, the reasons we got into this versus the reasons we're probably still here, I think they still align. But, ultimately, Salt and I would have all these conversations. And, and this is just how our conversations flow, So for those of you who are still listening, our conversations just flow like this. And it's nothing abnormal. I mean, you and your closest friends, you have conversations, and in the span of a couple hours, you cover a multitude of topics. And that's what we do. And honestly, like, we come into this mostly blind without any real agenda. We try to have an agenda. In fact, I have on deck multiple things that I wanted to talk about again, but we just never get there. And that's all right, man. We're talking about life. Talking about life, how we see it, again, from two different pairs of eyes, from two completely different backgrounds. And the perspective is always there. The conversation's always great. And so hopefully y'all are getting something out of it.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah. Next time I'll give an update on how my lesbian wedding goes. It's gonna be intense.
Ooh, yes,
I hope it's gonna be intense. Hopefully it's not gonna be like a drag.
Yeah.
Sometimes I go to well, no pun intended, but hopefully, like I went to you go to some weddings and they're kind of
as soon as you said it, I was like, here we go. We're gonna be on the phone we're gonna be on the mic another hour.
It didn't even dawn on me until I said it. I was like, oh snap. Hey, I'm hoping it's gonna be like a good time. Like I haven't been to too many like boring weddings. Like the weddings were cool, but I think like the guests were kind of whack. So that's what kind of killed some of my some past weddings I've been to. But I'm hoping that there's a good guest list, because I don't know who I have no idea. I'm going with someone else to this. I was invited to be a +1, so I don't know any of these folks other than the person I'm going with. So for me, in my mind, it's gonna be a good time. I think it's gonna be a blast. Because you're there to celebrate the union of two people. And I think if you're coming in with that, everyone's already like in a good mood. They're there to celebrate all that good stuff. So it should be a lot of fun. I'm expecting it to be so. So yeah. Until I'll update on the next episode. We'll chat about my my wedding experience. It's like wedding number like 10 or 11 for me in total. It's ridiculous. Luckily, none of them are mine. Shit. So, well,
I look forward to it, man.
Thanks, folks. Right. Take care. Be easy. We're out. Cruxmen gone. Peace.